What's up, everybody? Another jam-packed special episode of Nass the Pod, playoff edition. I am too excited. I got too much to get into, so please don't move a muscle. Don't say a thing. Just open your ears, grab something to eat, relax, kick back. Just relax. Let me just kick game for a little bit. So, like I said, don't move a muscle. New episode, Nass the Pod going down right now.
Engulfed by the history, the most successful, storied history. Anybody else ought to throw the locker room
Boston Celtics took home Game 2 at home, 121-87 over the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not gonna lie, I was fairly nervous before the game just because I was heavily disappointed in how they played in Game 1. Laid a complete egg. Tatum played very well. Brown played well, but he only took 10 shots. That was kind of odd. He wasn't as aggressive in the second half as he was in the first. I feel like the Celtics had got lackadaisical on switches, and ultimately I felt like they just did a piss poor job on defense. And for a team that was a top 10 defense all year, that's just unacceptable, especially with no Embiid. The MVP was on the bench. He was in street clothes. You let, a James Harden that a lot of people have written off, especially come playoff time, you let him come in on the road Game 1 and drop 45. He looked amazing. Now, I know Game 2 they made some adjustments. Game 1, not just James Harden. Honestly, the Celtics had let all three guards, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, De'Anthony Melton, they kind of let them get whatever they want. I think De'Anthony Melton hit like 5 threes. Maxey was all over the place. Arguably the fastest guy in the league. He's just hard to stay in front of. And then you got James Harden, who he's running out there with Paul Reed, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, who was literally a 0 in Game 1, took 0 shots from the field, scored 0 points. I think he had a couple steals. He played 37 minutes. So you're looking at really a handicapped offense, you know what I mean? Especially a team that was kind of more so filled with one-way guys, like just the guys I just named. And then you've got James Harden leading the way. So for versatile, flexible, East contender team like the Boston Celtics that have showcased all year that they're not just one of the best teams in the league, but one of the best, two-way teams, one of the best offensive teams and defensive teams in the league. There's not too many teams that are both like top 10 in offensive defensive rating. The Boston Celtics are one of those teams, so it was a tough watch. Game 1 was a tough watch. Coming into Game 2, I was wondering who's going to step up and apply pressure to these Philly guards, because they got wherever they wanted. Like I said, we looked like they got lazy on switches. Harden was able to operate anywhere. He was taking mid-range jumpers like he was Kyrie. Kobe Bryant taking fadeaways. I think Harden hit at like 7 or 8 like legit mid-range twos. And it looks like 2013 James Harden in Houston. So that was a bit of a shock. But I was wondering who was going to step up and take the assignment of at least trying to do their best job at eliminating James Harden and taking him out. You saw Jaylen Brown, he set the tone. He's not picking up James Harden full court, but he's applying pressure. He's making Harden work to advance the ball. And, that the pace that James Harden plays at, you want to make him work. You don't want him to go at his own pace. You want to make him run at your own pace. Now he's working hard to advance the ball. A couple seconds off the clock. Now it takes him a little bit more time to run exactly what they're running. And, time ticks, and before you know it, the final guy with the ball just got his touch, and now there's like 6 seconds left on the shot clock. Now you're making him think quicker. He's got to anticipate defenses quicker. And ultimately, that just forces them into, more likely a low-quality, shot or field goal attempt. So I felt like Philly was just able to get whatever they wanted in the first game. Game 2, clearly Mazzulla made some adjustments. James Harden had an off game, a terrible game 2. Obviously, coming off that rest, it's a lot easier to come off 7, 8, 9 days rest, come into game 1, fresh legs and go crazy, as opposed to having 1 day rest, coming back, and you could see it. So that was really interesting. I wanted to know who was going to step up, so it was good to see that Jaylen Brown took the initiative of at least, being assigned James Harden. And the best part about that is that it's a pride thing. James Harden, this Hall of Fame top 75 player, like that's what Jaylen Brown's chasing. Like that's the career ceiling he's chasing. He wants to be. I'm sure he'd like to be an MVP of this league. He'd like to be a 10-time All-Star, a perennial All-NBA guy. That's what Jaylen Brown is just at the cusp at. Even at 25, 26 years old, he can go do those things. So it was good to see him be able to take on that challenge defensively, because not a lot of 2 guys in the league are known for playing, amazing defense. Defense is kind of like a lost art now. We obviously value offense a lot more nowadays, especially with the shooting, stretching the floor, all that. We kind of get lost in the art that, rebounding does matter. Getting stops on defense, those things matter. That's how championship teams are built. So it was great to see Jaylen Brown take that upon himself in game 2. He had 25 points. He really set the tone for the Celtics. Just being aggressive on both sides of the floor. Listen, there's no one on Philly that's going to hang with Jaylen Brown or Tatum. And I know Tatum had a slow night. And what's crazy is, like, to start off the game, he got into foul trouble. But he was a plus 24. And I know when you're watching NBA games, you're not watching NBA games and you're thinking like, oh, Jason Tatum's a plus 10 right now. You're not doing the math. You're not doing all that extra stuff. You're just trying to get a feel for the game. But it's crazy. In the midst of his foul trouble, he'd only taken 4 shots. In the first half, he only took 4 shots. He had made 1. I believe he had 7 points. 5 of those points came from the charity stripe. Had like 3 or so assists. But like I said, he was plus 24. So that does matter, because even though his shot was not falling, he was still a threat on offense. He was still making the correct read. He was still, enhancing other players on the team. So even though he had a bad night, it was good because that translated into the second half and they expanded their league. And for the Celtics to get a big win like that, especially on an off night from Jason Tatum, that's pretty huge. That's optimistic going into Game 3. And I mean, Game 3, Tatum rarely has back-to-back, off nights like that. So it was very refreshing to see that. And it was odd. Game 1 was fairly odd to me because you look at the touches. Celtics touches in Game 1. Jason Tatum had 97. Jaylen Brown was the next guy at 58. Your top 2 players, that's why it felt odd that, I don't know if the Celtics went away from Jaylen or Jaylen got kind of rattled. In the midst of Game 1, there was a stretch where he had like back-to-back turnovers in like a minute span. And then after that, you just didn't really see him with the ball again, or you didn't see him with the same attack, the same aggression. So it was good that it was really very refreshing to see him really get to it in Game 2. It was good that Mazzulla made some adjustments. I know he said that the Celtics need to take more threes. Celtics are one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league, so that worked out. I'm not particularly I'm content, but I'm not content, if that makes sense. Because now you got these. Philly did what they needed to do. They stole home court from you. You got Game 2, which is good. Even 1-1. It's a new series now. It's 0-0. But now you got to go to Philly. You got to go get one in Philly. Whether it's Game 3 or Game 4. Preferably, I would like to just see Game 3. I'd like to get that out of the way. So then Game 4 comes. If you can go get 2 in Philly, which the team we saw tonight, the Celtics team that we saw tonight, Game 2, they can go into Philly and take 2 games. 100%, without a doubt. One, Joel Embiid, coming back from the knee braces he's wearing looked like it kind of hindered his mobility, or he didn't look super comfortable. He only took like 9 shots. You like to see that he was a defensive presence. I think he did like 5 blocks. So you like to see that he's at least working himself back. I do expect Joel Embiid to have a big Game 3. He only took 9 shots. He's going to be aggressive from the get-go. He's probably going to take somewhere between 20 to 25 shots next game. So the Celtics should definitely anticipate that. Definitely going to be a big Tatum game coming back. Grant Williams had some moments in this game too, some momentum shifting moments. And I'm probably the biggest Grant Williams hater anyone could think of. But I do understand that he's a big body. He's a guy that, he didn't really get a lot of minutes last series. And that's just, sometimes that's how the playoff is. Like, the playoffs are, like, if you have role players, like, there's going to be certain series that just aren't meant for you. They're matchup based. Like, if we know that you're going to get exposed in this series, we're going to limit you on the floor. That's just how it is. I'm very intrigued to see, and it's a good problem to have, but I'm interested to see what Missoula does with, Derek White, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon are three premier defensive guards. You heard Marcus Smart say earlier how he believes they have the best trio. Obviously, I agree. You have him, former Defensive Player of the Year. Derek White is more than likely going to make a first team or second team All-NBA team. And then you have Malcolm Brogdon, who's just a sturdy body. He's been a pretty solid defender since he entered the league. So you put those three together, and then you have, Tatum and Brown, who are just two-way stars. Robert Williams in the middle. Horford, who's very flexible, even at his age. And that's what you get. You get a top 10 defense. That's the formula right there. So that's why, like, a great, like, anyone that is starting an NBA franchise would want that formula. Multiple guards that can guard a couple positions, two wings that can guard, like, three positions and can play, that can handle the ball and play both front court positions. You have a stretch big in Al Horford, who, even though he's kind of in the twilight of his career, he's still able to provide some things for you on offense. So you like to see that. And then you got Rob Williams, who is basically a glass cleaner. He just cleans the glass, keeps guys out of the paint. He's a lob threat. Those are, that if you were to start your NBA team, those would be, if you were to start an NBA team and you were trying to think of what type of defensive guys you'd want, those would be the characteristics that you'd want. So that's why I didn't understand the game one loss. Like, it was so alarming to me. It was so alarming. We saw it in game 5 at home when the Celtics should have finished off the Atlanta Hawks. The team that they should have been literally either swept or beat them in 5. The team that went 4-0 in the regular season, and I know the regular season and the postseason is two different ball games, but I tip my hat off to the Hawks. I honestly think they're a good team, solid team. I didn't think they were in the Celtics stratosphere, but you saw that sometimes the Celtics, they just put their foot off the gas pedal, and before you know it, now you're down 1 with 10 seconds left. You saw Trae Young. Trae Young was just being Trae Young. So that was that. I'm optimistic that they can definitely take one at Philly. But with the Celtics now, I'm just gonna take it game by game. Can't think too far ahead, because I'm thinking too far ahead. I'm thinking 2-zip series. Embiid's not playing. Let's take them out now. Won at Philly 1-1. So, but that's the NBA. Game 1 of the Lakers-Warriors second round series in the West was definitely just amazing to watch. You got so many storylines, the Steph Curry, LeBron James stuff. You got all the trades that the Lakers made post Westbrook, bringing in Vanderbilt, who had a great game 1, showed the immense defensive pressure on the perimeter against Steph Curry, chasing him around, going around screens. You saw what he can bring to the table. D'Angelo Russell, a guy who's expected to kind of fill in not just the ball handling role, but also the score first, combo guard, something similar that we saw from Kyrie Irving during the years that he was playing with LeBron. Someone that can kind of just create a shot for others and can be a form of instant offense. You saw him pouring 19 points. Austin Reeves, basically the same role. Dennis Schroeder, those guys basically alleviating LeBron of that, constant on-ball pressure and the ball handling and all that. Those guys being able to go in there and be, particular X factors, that's really going to make or break their season. Anthony Davis, who's been as dominant as I think I've ever seen, especially from the interior. He's not outside taking as many jumpers as he did before, but him being able to be that glass cleaner, interior presence on defense, showcased. He had a huge game, 30 points, 20 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 blocks. I think he was like the first guy to have a stat like that since like Duncan, which, that just shows you. So Anthony Davis' skill set is crazy. I believe he has to be the best Laker. He has to be the best Laker for them to win. If they want to be Golden State, he has to be the best Laker. AD exposed Golden State's thin front court. And, the front court's... And Looney, shout out Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney's had an amazing postseason, in his role. But when you do think about it, he did go against a fairly thin Sacramento Kings front court. Not a lot of bruisers. If we're being honest, Domantas Sabonis is not really a center. He's actually a power forward, but he plays center because, you know, the league is just evolving. We're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. 10 years ago, Domantas Sabonis would probably be like a small forward, but because of the era we're in, how ball movement, you know, plays, the way basketball is played today, Sabonis, just his skill set is just suited to be a small ball five. But Kevon Looney and Draymond Green, like, as great as a defender Draymond Green is, asking him to take on the task of Anthony Davis for a 7-game series is a lot. Especially because, you know, Anthony Davis towers over him. He can take him off the dribble, he can attack. I mean, and Draymond, like, don't get me wrong, Draymond's one of the best defenders ever. He's arguably the best defender of our generation. He can guard 1 through 5 easily, but asking him to take on Anthony Davis is kind of a tall task. And you saw it, 30 and 20 in game 1. I expect, you know, AD to continue to expose them. I find it interesting that Steve Kerr didn't play Kuminga. Kuminga had 0 minutes in game 1. I felt like, considering that LeBron James's foot it doesn't look totally healed. He's not hitting like any of his threes. They're all flat. It looks like he's not getting that same lift as he did, you know, pre-injury. I thought a guy like Kuminga, that's a young guy that can, you know, just make LeBron put the ball on the floor, make him work a little harder, especially at 38. Like, that's your goal. You want to make LeBron work as hard as he can. You saw it in the Memphis series. Certain moments he was conserving energy, kind of like an old school boxer. Wait till he gets to the fourth quarter to kind of just, you know, exert that energy needed to, you know, put the team to the finish line. So I thought it was interesting. I expect to see Kuminga at some point in this series. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was interesting. A young guy like that, full of energy. I know he kind of had his up and downs in the Kings series, but I expect Kerr to at least, you know, play him at least 15, 20 minutes, see what the guy can do. Because I don't think this is going to be a series for Gary Payton or DiVincenzo. They were asked to, you know, stay with Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox this series above, but those guys were score-first guys. The guys in the Lakers right now, Reeves, Dennis, and Russell, they're looking to score, but they're kind of taking what's given to them. If the shot's there, they're going to shoot it. But they're more so playing an integrated role, more as opposed to De'Aaron Fox, who was there to just set the tone. And now you're looking for someone who can just kind of just limit them. Lakers interior D was another big takeaway I took away from game 1. Golden State Warriors shot 53 2-point attempts and 53 3-point attempts in game 1. Poole hit 6 threes, Clay had 6 threes, Steph had 6 threes. The only one who really shot well from the floor overall was Poole. He had that big opportunity at the end of the game. The shot was, personally, I didn't hate the look because I've seen him hit some outrageous shots. But personally, in that particular spot, I feel like he should have looked for something a little bit more high quality. But I'm not going to get on him. Like I said, I've seen him hit big shots like that. That's not a shot that he's never taken before. And the Warriors are going to live with that shot, you know. And then the Lakers play it perfectly. You just got to put 2 at Steph and make someone else, you know, make a shot or make a play for someone or someone else. So I didn't mind that. But I did think that the Lakers' interior defense, you know, AD, LeBron being you know, even at this point in his career, he's still a pretty solid help defender. He knows where to be. He understands rotations. His IQ's off the charts. He's just going to know where to be, at least in such situations. But LeBron, AD, Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, who's, you know, a big, stocky, athletic body, they're not going to be a lot of easy drives to the Warriors to get to the rim. And as you see, now it's going to force them to be a jump shooting team. They're already thin on the front court. The only ones who are really creating shots for them or each other is Curry, Poole. Clay can go create for himself, Wiggins here and there. But other than that, if the Golden State is not going to be getting drives at the rim and they're going to become a jump shooting team, I don't know if I can really envision them even winning the series if this is the type of basketball they're going to play. They're going to need to make some adjustments on offense, and they will. I'm sure they will. But they need to show some, you know, versatility on the offensive end. They can't just sit there and just jack up threes all game. That's not going to work. LeBron's too smart for that. Anthony Davis is going from facing a Defensive Player of the Year in Jaren Jackson Jr. to now a very thin Golden State front court. He is going to eat. He's going to eat. That's all I expect of him in this series. Now, the Denver Nuggets are up 2-0 on the Phoenix Suns. It hasn't really been much of a contest. A lot of the problems that I saw against the Clippers kind of followed into the Denver Nuggets series. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant playing a heavy amount of minutes. I believe they lead all players on both teams in minutes played, just like they did the series prior against the Clippers. I don't know. I don't know what to think going forward because the bench is already very thin. TJ Warren is a 0. He's not playing. Terrence Ross is 0. He's not playing. Landry Shamet didn't really have an amazing series against the Clippers. He hasn't really brought much to the table. Wainwright is not even playing. So you're just thinking where... I just want to enter Monty Williams' mind is what is next step? Because Chris Paul is now going to be out games 3, game 4, and game 5. Which means now your legit only primary offensive creators are literally Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And those two guys have had to defend, and they've done a pretty good job. They're not known for their defense, but they've done a great job on defense this postseason. I'm not even gonna lie. Durant has been a great help defender, a guy who's obviously been able to guard multiple positions. Devin Booker, who's been someone that they've knocked on him for his defense, has actually stepped up and been a very great defender in the playoffs. It's just a competitive fire in him. But going forward, especially with Chris Paul out, I believe that the only solution that Monty Williams may have in order to maximize his team right now is he's going to have to stagger KD and Booker. Because these are the two most talented players on the team. At least you can say that you'll have one of them on the court at all times. I don't think you can afford to have them both on the bench. You can start them, but I think you're really going to have to play that stagger game. Same game that D'Antoni played with Harden and Westbrook. A team that wasn't really known for defense, but was full of shooters. But they were the only two offensive creators. So D'Antoni had to kind of play his cards right in order to maximize it. Stagger them in the middle of the game. Crunch time, put them back out there. He did the same thing with Chris Paul. He would stagger Harden and Chris Paul. The next year he did with Westbrook. So I think Monty's going to have to take a page out of D'Antoni's book and do something similar to that because Booker and KD, they've adjusted. They've adapted to each other, but it's only game, I don't know what game. It might be game 20 for them overall since KD got traded to the Suns. He had, the ankle sprain in warm-ups that hindered him, kind of creating that camaraderie with Booker and with Paul. And they've adapted. They've had some moments we saw in the Clippers series, but those two guys are so gifted at scoring the ball. They kind of make the chemistry. They kind of make it seem like they've been playing for a much longer time because their IQs are off the charts. But in essence, this is a different series. This is the first time I've seen KD kind of off ball, more so in a decoy role. You see a lot of pick and roll action when Booker is usually the one handling the ball. Ayton will come set a pick. He's going around, and you got Durant in that weak side corner, just stretching the floor, and it's beautiful. But now I don't know if they're gonna be able to afford to do that because now Chris Paul's not there. Now you're really like, okay, where am I going to get this bench scoring? In game 2, Phoenix Suns scored four bench points. They had 4 points off their bench in game 2. They didn't even break 90 points. I believe they had 87 points the entire game. It's not 2003. 87 points is not going to cut it at all. And obviously, Monty Williams knows that. Devin Booker probably knows that. They all know that. But I just find it interesting. I don't know what route they're going to go, but I think staggering is going to have to be their best option here. If you look at the Suns' 2-man plus-minus lineups per 100 possessions, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, plus 7.7. Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, plus 4.1. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, plus 3.7. Those are now the three that you're going to have to, figure it out. I think if you just put Booker out there with Ayton, surrounded with shooters, some defenders, Okogie. Okogie's going to have to start, for Chris Paul. TJ Warren hasn't been playing. I don't know what they're going to get from that. Those, I feel like, are going to be the two key 2-man combos going forward just because, like I said, Chris Paul's out. Your bench is already depleted enough. Now you're losing another ball handler and shot creator. I don't know what card Monty's going to pull. A lot of the role players and guys off the bench right now haven't been bringing much to the table. And to be honest with you, KD, Booker, and CP3, those three alone, and 8 and 2, those four are pretty much responsible for the Suns even advancing past the Clippers. Because the Clippers had a much deeper team, and that series was a lot closer than people are gonna tell. A year from now when we look back at the Clippers led by Russell Westbrook, and when they lost Kawhi Leonard and Paul George was already hurt, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, yeah, they lost in 5. But that series was a little too competitive for, a Western Conference contender. This is led by Russell Westbrook, a player that they said was going to be in China, after being bought out. So for him to come in and really push the Phoenix Suns to the brink when he hasn't even spent half the year with his new team, it was a little bit alarming to me. So those 2-man lineups, that'd be something I'd be on the lookout for. Phoenix Suns, they're going to be forced to shoot a lot more threes. I know we have the mid-range mafia with Chris Paul, Booker, Durant, but, to start off the game, they're already at a net negative because they don't take threes. They don't take threes, so obviously they're not making threes. They're not taking as many. And a team like the Denver Nuggets, one of the premier three-point teams in the entire league, there's going to have to be some sort of tactic you come up with. So that was something I would be on the lookout for, would be the Phoenix Suns three-point attempts as a team going forward the rest of the series. I mentioned the staggering KD and Booker. I mentioned that the bench is a little bit underwhelming. Those would probably the 2 factors I look at. To be honest, I don't know if I see the Suns creating that much of a fight, because now going forward, Booker and KD are going to have to... They were already on pressure to, score a lot. Now, Booker and KD are going to have to go into, God mode. And, chances more likely than not, one of them is going to have it going or going to have a really high-scoring night. But 55, 60 points, that's not going to cut it for the both of them. I think Booker averaged 35 in the series before, and Durant averaged, I believe, 27. You do the math is not mathing. If they're not getting anything from the bench, this series is going to be quick. And, Game 3's in Phoenix. If they don't get that, then, I think it's going to be all she wrote. And I can't hold that against Phoenix because, like I said, when they made this trade, it is not realistic for arguably the best guy or your second best guy on the championship team to come to the new team midway through the year and help lead that team to championship heights. It's pretty unprecedented. And not to mention Kevin Durant was hurt. He came in, he played a couple games, maybe 3 games, then he turned his ankle. So you don't see things like this every day. Yeah, I don't know. Unless Monty Williams comes up with some sort of defensive, some sort of bench switch or some sort of tactic, I don't know if I see Phoenix making this series much of a fight. Booker and KD, they're going to score in bunches, but as a team, I don't know if the team is all the way there to hang with the Nuggets. The Nuggets are one of the best teams in the league. They've been that all year. MVP finalist, 2-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. He's probably going to make first or second team All-NBA. Him leading the way. You got Jamal Murray, who's turned the clock back to the bubble. He looks like his legs are a lot more fresh. You saw him have a great Game 1. Struggled in Game 2, didn't shoot the ball that well, but his presence being there, now that everyone has seen that, okay, Jamal Murray is all the way back, that is going to alleviate Joker of some pressure. That's going to make Michael Porter Jr., it's going to make his job a little easier. KCP, it's going to open up, it's going to make the shots that he takes even more open. He's going to be even more open now. So you go just down the line, especially for a team that had one of the most productive 5-man units all year, the Denver Nuggets. If you look at it, KCP, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., those guys played a lot of heavy minutes together all year round. Those guys were available. And that's something that you look at this time of year is like teams like the Kings, the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets. The reason why they were able to even make it to this point was because, they had camaraderie. They had guys that were available, and the guys played together for the majority of the year, a lot of minutes. So I just don't see a world where the Phoenix Suns can just make this a fight. I'm just not too sure. I feel like the Denver Nuggets and Jokic, they just might be too much for them. But I am interested to see how Monty Williams goes about the Chris Paul injury. I doubt he's going to keep his rotations the same. He can't afford it. Campaign is coming off a back. Now you're asking him to be your third on-ball shot creator, playmaker, all that stuff. And it's no knock on Campaign, but even him himself, I think he even knows that, listen, I can do my best to fill this role. I'm going to have some good stretches, but if you think that me having these great stretches is going to be the difference between us advancing and us losing, I think you're sadly mistaken. I think they're going to need more than that. They're going to need more than that. They're going to need another scorer off the bench, and they're going to need someone that is going to defend. Jamal Murray can't do what he did in Game 1, in Game 3, or the rest of the series if they want to win. So those are just a couple of things I look up. I had warned you guys. I had warned you guys saying that Playoff Jimmy is coming. He's coming, and now he's here. And now we're having the same discourse we had last year. Oh, is Jimmy Butler a top 5 player? Oh, is Jimmy Butler this? Oh, is Jimmy Butler that? Listen, this is just a cycle. This is what happens. And I'm not even going to lie to you. I had written off the Miami Heat as a whole. I thought Duncan Robinson. I thought no more of him. Kyle Lowry, I thought he was washed. I was giving him the same treatment they were giving Westbrook early on in the year. I was like, Kyle Lowry is done. Wrong about that. They brought in Kevin Love, which was odd because I don't even know why the Cavs even bought him out. That's a guy that has a ring. He's probably going to get his jersey retired in Cleveland. And on top of that, he's played in the playoffs. Why wouldn't you want a team? Why would you want a guy on the team? You don't think Kevin Love could have played a difference in the New York-Cleveland series? He definitely could have. They needed shooters to spread the floor more. They needed a guy who would rebound the ball. And they needed a guy who's been there before. Kevin Love checks all those boxes. So the Cleveland Cavaliers getting rid of him, that was fairly odd. But shout out to Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat for scooping him up. They're tied 1-1 in this series with the New York Knicks, who've been dealing with, Julius Randle being out with his ankle injury. He came back, played okay in game 2. But the Jimmy Butler thing is so out of this world. It almost doesn't add up to me because in the regular season, we already know his impact on both sides of the floor. Like I said, he's a winning player. But it seems like when he gets into the playoffs, the numbers are just too astronomical for a guy who his numbers aren't going to be what tells the whole story about his career. Jimmy Butler. That's one of those guys where his numbers aren't going to tell the whole story. So he's played amazing. He has looked amazing. Rolled his ankle in game 1. Kind of had to hobble around the end of the game. But the Heat were able to pull off game 1. And they were almost able to pull off game 2. They were leading most of that game until the Knicks made that late surge. So I feel like this series is going to go 7. I think it's going to go 7. I think Jimmy's going to come back, but there's something different with the Knicks this year. I love what Jalen Brunson's done all year. He was one of my All-NBA snubs. It was tough to leave him off. All-Star, though. It was tough to, not have him on All-NBA, All-Star, but shout out to Jalen Brunson. The Knicks Heat is going to be a great series. This team is playing with a lot of pride. They got New York behind their back. Similar to Sacramento, they haven't been in the playoffs for a little bit, so they got that swagger. They got that confidence they're walking around with. But Eric Spoelstra in the playoffs is different too. Eric Spoelstra has to be arguably one of the best coaches in the NBA. I mean, I feel like at this point it's just it's amazing. It's amazing what he gets. It's amazing how Spoelstra continues to maximize his players, regardless of who's out there. I mean, he's starting Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Kyle Lowry. You got Bam Adebayo out there. But Bam hasn't really been Bam. I believe he only had 13 points in game 2. But just the fact that Spoelstra is able to almost make this a game, the fact that he was almost able to go 2-zip in MSG without Jimmy Butler is beyond me. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. But now I 100% see why the Celtics were ducking the Heat. I get it, especially after last year. Jimmy Butler was just about an inch away from just putting the team away as a whole, just him. And yeah, I just feel like we need to put a little bit more respect on Eric Spoelstra's name. I know everyone knows he's a good coach, but it's starting to get to the point that he's an all-time coach. I believe he just entered the top five most playoff wins amongst NBA coaches. I believe he just passed Larry Brown. I saw that on Instagram the other day. So yeah, no, Spoelstra's like that, man. Spoelstra's really like that. It's crazy because the discourse around his name when he was the head coach with LeBron was that, LeBron and Wade got him those rings. But we're just failing to also acknowledge that, Spoelstra had to come off some adversity in that. They did lose that first series against the Mavs, and they had to, kind of regroup. So it's been amazing to see his story unfold post-LeBron, post-Dwayne Wade. For him to be able to still coach at this high of a level, I got to give my flowers to him. Especially me as a Celtics fan who's, I don't want to say dealing with Joe Mazzulla, but Joe Mazzulla's 33 years old. It's his first year as an NBA head coach. He's thrown in with the Sharks. You know what I mean? Eric Spoelstra, Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse. Now we got this series against Doc Rivers. These are some high-quality Eastern Conference coaches. So for Mazzulla just to even be here right now is just a miracle. It's not like he's going over to Will Hardy and, Frank Vogel or, I don't know, Sam Cassell or Larry Drew or any of these high-quality assistant coaches, you're looking for intel like that. This is a very young, Boston Celtics coaching staff. So it just makes you, be grateful for what a coach represents. Coaching matters, situations matter. So I just wanted to shout out Eric Spoelstra. I believe that series is going to end up winning 7. And it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a dogfight. The Miami-New York, playoff rivalry. It's giving us flashbacks to, the Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, and the Ewing days. So it's great. It's great for basketball. It's just great for basketball when the New York Knicks are good. It's just better. It's better for basketball. Seeing Spike Lee jump up and down, it's great for basketball. Seeing all the Hollywood stars, in the first row at MSG, it's great for basketball. It's great for the game. And, that's what we want. We want to grow the game. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nass the Pod, man. Me and George, my man George Guay, we're having another episode of Just Say Nass the Pod. That should be up sometime next week. We'll let a couple days go by after the weekend, and then we'll sit down, have a talk about the rest of this round 2, unpack everything. But yeah, it was an honor. I'm grateful to do this every day. All I do is wake up and just look forward to this NBA-ish. So, it's an honor to do this in front of you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for critiquing me, being in my ear, talking to me, spending time with me. Goes, forever appreciated, forever grateful. Yeah, let's just keep this thing going, man. Hey, subscribe and like this ish too, man. Come on now. Please, support a black man, support a brother. Like, comment, subscribe. Do what you gotta do. The link tree's down there. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Mostly on Twitter. Mostly Twitter and Instagram. Those are like my go-tos right now. I like to laugh on Twitter. And Instagram, I like to do other stuff on Instagram. So, tap in. Follow Nass the Pod on Instagram too. Follow me on Twitter. The TikTok's down there for all you young kids out there, man. Want to see me on TikTok. Tap in. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. All right.